My name is Cheryl Kennedy. I'm the Executive Director here at Tech Valley Center of Gravity. And we have been putting on virtual luncheons. We had intended them to be in person, and then of course the pandemic happened, and we decided to just move forward with them at lunchtime and hope for the best. And so far we've had really great attendance, really awesome speakers, and we are very excited to have Jeff Zemsky from PTC here with us today. So first I'm going to tell you a little bit about the manufacturing incubator. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. So if you don't know about the manufacturing incubator at Tech Valley Center of Gravity, it is not so much a physical thing, but a presence here. We are New York State certified and affiliated with Innovate 518, so we do offer hotspot benefits. We give tailored engineering consultation and expertise. What we really do is we offer a lot of accountability to people who are working on product development projects. So if you join the incubator and you have something that you're working on, there is a monthly team advisory group that meets with you to see what you're doing, when you're doing it, and if you're meeting all of the goals that you set for yourself. And we also are able to connect you with engineers and residents and people who can help you very specifically on your technical needs. So I will put in our chat the link to our website. All here are the application process. It's relatively simple. The duration is rolling. So this is something that can be very beneficial to people. So if you know anybody who is developing products who might need this kind of assistance, please direct them to the manufacturing incubator at the Center of Gravity. As for Jeff, our presenter today, he is from PTC. He's the Senior Director of Product Management in the Windchill team at PTC. So I'll be interested in hearing what Windchill team actually means. I've been saying it a lot, and I'm like, I would like more information on Windchill team. So prior to joining PTC, Jeff spent 16 years implementing and using PLM, CAD, and CAE at industrial, high-tech, and consumer product companies, including Plug Power and Gardenway. So Jeff attended RPI and Lehigh University, and I'm going to hand it over to you, Jeff, to begin your AR and product development presentation.
All right. Thank you. So yeah, let me, you asked Windchill. So Windchill is our product lifecycle management solution for product data management, bill of material management, manufacturing process management, collaboration. And it was formed by a group of people out of Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. So the name Windchill actually was just their fun play on words of the temperatures in the Twin Cities region. So and that name is kind of stuck. So it's been there for 20 some odd years. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So I'm actually not going to talk about I'm not going to talk about PLM today. When we had that meetup a few weeks ago, it was kind of interesting. We had talked about some of the challenges that people are facing today, these days in the time of COVID. And, today, right, we're not together. We're on Zoom because of COVID, and it's safer for us to do these virtual sessions. And the topic had gotten to, how is that impacting how people are developing their products and collaborating with each other, which kind of got us on the topic of augmented reality. And one of our product areas at PTC is augmented reality. And so PTC, we're a software company out of Boston. We're the makers of Creo, you might know it as Pro Engineer, for CAD, also Onshape, which is a cloud-based SaaS CAD, Windchill for PLM, IoT and AR products. But so we started talking about, AR is really cool, and we see lots of neat stuff with it. But is there a practical way that people can leverage and use AR today? It seems like it's really hard to get into AR. So, you know, with that in mind, I think, well, you know, there are some ways, there are some tools in AR that are really practical and accessible today to help both with product design and development and collaboration, as well as with service and manufacturing. So I said, you know, why don't we, and you know, we said, why don't we talk about some of that technology in AR that is accessible to people today. And I see I'm sharing. I just switched laptops, so my screen numbers are opposite of what they used to be. All right, so let's go ahead and, you know, talk about using AR in product development and collaboration today. So, you know, as an engineer, and you know, everyone, you know, growing up with things like Star Trek: The Next Generation and the holodeck and all that, and of course, you know, in Marvel movies, we all have these visions of what AR, you know, really could be in you know, of what it is or what it should be, right? So we see these cool designs that Tony Stark's doing, and this is where we'd love to get. We're not quite there yet today, you know, but some of the things we do recognize are, you know, it's getting people online in both design and manufacturing grows more challenging. People are more distributed, things are more complex, products are more complex. And particularly with this challenge we've had this year, people are more distributed, they're more mobile. And so we need ways to deal with that. And so you know, I thought I'd maybe just give a start on an example of things that are possible in AR today. So here's an example of one of our customers, Howden, who uses our AR products for manufacturing and service. And one of the things you'll notice is that the screen just flashed yellow. And what it's doing is it's using spatial recognition. So you don't need a barcode or any datums on the product. It can actually recognize the product where it is spatially as you walk around it, which is, you know, pretty cool advances in AR. Even 3 to 4 years ago, things like this were just not possible to do in something that you could walk around with, right? Have something recognize a product that you're looking at. So we're seeing rapid advances. And so this user actually comes up to this machine, right? And they get a virtual display and access to virtual controls and feedback for this blower system, as well as you can see in this step, he's actually looking at disassembly steps. So these are all examples of things you can do today with AR tools, and they're really powerful and really capable technologies. But to do this definitely takes some setup of having the right CAD data, the right feedback, the right IoT information from your system to be able to drive those virtual interfaces. Really powerful, really helps your users, closed loop feedback to engineering, amazing. But you know, one of the questions that we get is, you know, that stuff is really cool, but how do I help people just start to get going? What's available today? You know, what can I go pick up today and just start using? So one of the tools that we have available is called Euphoria Chalk. And actually, one of the things I don't know is, did I set it to share the audio? Here we go. I should be okay now. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of
digital transformation should empower your people. Today, a high-performance workforce requires extensive training programs, equipment maintenance,
and you know,
travel,
a lot of the focus
and support systems.
That you'll see in these
Yet
slides,
the traditional means of sharing expertise are inefficient and time-consuming.
Whether it's
now we've created a new way to tackle these business requirements. This is Euphoria Chalk, an easy-to-use, powerful support tool that allows your workforce to collaborate in real time, anywhere. Chalk enables your workforce to connect for support or training. First, employees can share a live view of their workspace with an expert or coworker.
Waste valve here. Now that that's closed, you can turn on your surface wash valve, which is here. Okay, got it.
Both people can draw on the world and work together as if they are together. And thanks to Euphoria Augmented Reality technology, your
Is that audio coming through now?
annotations stick exactly where they're drawn.
Thank you.
Even when you move around as you work.
So one of the key things you'll notice is spatial awareness. So this isn't just looking at video, but there's spatially aware technologies of
the live view
what you're
to draw easy to follow multi-step instructions. With Chalk, simple instructions help you solve complex problems quickly and effectively. Chalk works on mobile devices, meaning your most experienced minds are accessible anytime, anywhere.
And then you want to open either one of these two motor meters here.
Having your best minds on the job remotely means solving the problem right the first time, reducing equipment downtime, and improving your bottom line. Chalk is ideal for service and training, and for other forms of collaboration too.
Okay, and lower the tongue and let's lose this eyelid.
It's easy for your team to work together or give feedback from almost anywhere in the world, saving you time and money.
Moves around.
You did a great job your first time there. Thank you.
Anything that she's marked up.
Accuracy, efficiency, collaboration. Chalk brings your workforce together with simple, intuitive tools they love to use. Euphoria Chalk. See it, solve it together.
So, those were just some highlight examples of this Euphoria Chalk tool. So it's really meant to be a simple, lightweight way to start accessing augmented reality technologies and getting the benefit of using augmented reality to better collaborate without having to put large enterprise systems in place, right? Without having to have large expertise to start to put this together. And so the way it works is it's really meant to be over-the-shoulder collaboration. It supports mobile, tablet, and desktop devices. So whether it's your phone, an iPad, an Android tablet, a PC laptop, or a MacBook, they can all work on that. You can combine things like live video and audio. You can annotate both just by using your finger to draw, as well as text typing tools. You can guide, use arrows to guide through on-site. And then what it does at the end is it gives you a documentation of those annotations that you've put together. So if we look at this example on an iPad, we'll see that this user is going to get contacted that someone needs support. And the first thing is the system is going to ask you to look around your space so it can identify the equipment or what you're designing on. And then you can start marking it up, talking to each other, asking questions. Obviously, there's voice going on at the same time, so it's not just markups. And then the person on the other end maybe is communicating, starting to give instructions on what to do. And I think they're going to tell Mark to go ahead and toggle this button here to go and get his system working. And at the end of the call, they will end up with a history of what that session was. So just in a very simple fashion, they have used augmented reality to collaborate to solve a challenge, and then created a history of what they learned or what information was captured during that session.
That's amazing, Jeff. That's really cool.
And when it first came out, we were like, at first you're kind of underwhelmed, but then when you realize how simple it is to do things like this, and then of course we all started having fun with it, like, oh, we can show our parents how to set the clock on the VCR with this, and they can just hold it up and know which buttons to push on the VCR. And actually, I've used it with my daughter to help her fix a problem on her car. So even simple real world applications, it's kind of a neat little tool that allows you to bring AR. Especially in this day and age when we can't necessarily be face to face, but you still, you still want to have those collaborative. It's kind of like the next step beyond what we're doing here on Zoom today. So, some of the things I mentioned is, it's environment aware. So it has you map what you're looking at, the area that you're looking at. So if you put an annotation on something, it stays there. It stays there in space, even as you move your camera. It knows where to keep that. So some of the things also, we have a desktop mode. There's a low bandwidth mode. So if someone happens to be in a location that there's not much cell coverage, there's a mode that will slow down the session but work to maintain the resolution, so the instructions still come through, but the collaboration happens a little more slowly. Other things that we allow is a desktop session, right? So if you happen to be at your desktop and you have a video camera, well, I don't want to have to then go jump on my phone to do this. I can do this right on my desktop. So different ways to do it. We also allow you to do it by phone number, or maybe if you've got a set of customers that or users that don't want to share their phone number, privacy concerns, you can give them session codes, right? The same way Zoom gives you a session code number, so you don't have to give out any private information. I was jumping ahead in my slides, right? So, talk about being able to do this from a web-based situation. So whether you're on a PC or a Mac, you've got a web-based tool to do this from. I mentioned the low bandwidth mode that allows you to stream high resolution but lowers the frame rate, so you keep the accuracy but slow down the rate at which you're collaborating. The session summary then gives you these snapshots of what happened through the call, so you have them to go back through, and maybe they become the start of some training information or feedback. And some of the other things that are coming, obviously it's made for simple, lightweight collaboration. But one of the things we're seeing is more and more companies using hands-free tools to do this. So we'll be supporting it on the RealWear HMT1 headset, and you'll see it expand to other virtual reality tools in the future as more of them come online. Other things that are coming are multiple person sessions. So maybe you have a team of people collaborating at one time, or you've got a multiple people that you want to share information to. Also things like text-based. So if you happen to be working in a noisy area, maybe you're next to a milling machine, or someone's running a saw. You can use text instead of audio, where audio might not be pragmatic. So those are just some examples of technologies that are coming for this. And it's something we just continue to drive to help people improve that collaboration capability. So why don't we take a break here and stop and look and see what questions we have.
So Michael put in the chat, could AR in development help when it comes to scale? It's really easy to get carried away on CAD and lose track of scale until you 3D print or try to manufacture and realize it isn't quite at the scale they expected.
Yep, that's actually a great question. So certainly from our both CAD and PLM solutions, we provide the ability to directly create augmented reality experiences. So whatever you're working on, you can directly publish to an AR experience, and then send either yourself or someone that you're collaborating with a QR code. They scan it, and the AR will pop up in front of them. And obviously it will come up to scale, and then you can scale it up and scale it down. But maybe if you're designing a new fixture to go into your machine shop, and oh, is this going to fit? So you design it in CAD, publish to AR, and then on your phone you can just go right down to your shop and actually look to see where that would be placed in your environment. And so those are those are definitely things that people are leveraging today. And there's also plenty of third-party solutions to publish both CAD specific and generic formats to a variety of AR-based solutions as well.
Okay, and our other question is from Sam, which Sam, you might want to explicate on this, but he wants to know, he says it's a great idea and he can think of many instances where it can come in handy, and wants to know if you're working with GE. His wife works in the energy division and he could forward to her as it could be good for service technicians. So,
that's a, I know we're working with Vestas. I don't know if we work with a bunch of GE aircraft. I don't know if we're working with the wind energy division off the top of my head, but I could, that's certainly a good question.
Sam, do you have anything to add?
Not really. I think it's a great idea. Like that, it's, for any company that makes machines or whatever, if you ever need to service them in the field, you can use that. It's like, or like you were saying, to help your daughter do, whatever, change a tire on your car or whatever, check the oil. There's like a million applications. I don't know why I haven't seen anything like that before. Is there anything like that else like that exists?
Yeah, I'm sure. It's an interesting question. Chalk, and obviously our product is the one I'm most familiar with. I have to imagine there's other solutions like that, but I haven't seen too many.
This is Michael. I've seen some similar stuff, but to your point, Jeff, like in the past, they have a QR code or some sort of thing on the floor or something to help identify the space, and like it was a little bit older technology, I think, where you're coming much newer, latest, kind of the latest thing. So
right, and yeah, and it's definitely been exciting to see, because even just a few years back, to make this work, you would have had to have some kind of QR or some kind of virtual registration code for it to keep its position in space. And the increase in processing power that's just come along with our devices today has made so much more possible for doing this spatial recognition. It's definitely interesting. And other tools, like using a tool like HoloLens, we've got other packages that allow you to manually author service or maintenance instructions or manufacturing instructions, and again, you don't have to have any fancy barcodes or QR codes around your equipment. It just starts to recognize it in space, and even gives you things like directions where you should be walking, or if you're gives you warnings if your hands are getting into someplace they shouldn't be. So it's the things you can start to do and see are start to become really interesting, especially as these headsets start to become both more affordable, smaller, and more capable for people.
On that note, I have a question. How much does this technology start up at? I mean, what?
That's a fine question, but I and I'm gonna have to go look that up, because I'm not on the sales end, and particularly in the chalk. It's but I can find that out and get that back to people.
Sure.
Sorry. But it's definitely made to be an accessible technology. So and I believe there's a free tryout version as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
If you go to the App Store, there should be a free trial.
Jeff, it's Michael. I think about people doing product development, and especially when it might be a kind of a complicated project. So, for instance, we have a company that we're working with through the Incubator that has to kind of deliver a prototype, in a sense, to NYSERDA. And at some stage, it might, because of the complication of it, or maybe even when certain things are ready, it's expensive to build that prototype. you know, something like this could be used to do those early, you know, display, you know, virtual environment prototype things, you know, to talk to
Yeah.
your customer.
I absolutely. You know, I don't have the video at hand, but you know, it is both for this as well as, you know, if you started designing it in CAD, the ability to publish it to an AR experience with our solutions. When you get sent a QR code, you can access it on your phone, but not only can you can access it, but depending upon the detail that the person created that experience, you can start to disassemble it, right? So you can explode it, you can move components, you can rotate them. So you'll see that, you know, in scale in front of you on your device, and you can start to pick components, move them around, you know, hide components. Oh, you know, I want to take off this cover and see how it's actually going to look as I look inside, maybe to access the product. And you can have multiple people doing that. So that really provides you that really provides you the ability to have that collaboration before you even start to cut any metal, or, you know, even make rapid prototypes for that standpoint.
Yeah. It's too bad we didn't get UAT on this call. So also another company we've worked with is doing virtual reality things with maintenance on helicopters. But using particular technology of theirs for sensing problems within the electrical system. But
Yep.
But really cool. Like, you know, it'd be you know, it's always cool to see people using it and how it can be used, and then showing how there's like platforms like Chalk that can get you started in it to get familiar with it without it being a crazy, you know, investment.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's one of the neat things about it is, you know, it's that step that allows you to really start having those conversations and really improving that communication, without having to, you know, go into full-blown enterprise systems to do it. And I see Dan, you've asked the question: is PTC provide any type of work instructions or SOP software that Chalk or AR solutions work in hand with? And the answer is yes. There's actually there's two paths that we support that. We have a product called Euphoria Expert Capture, which is and I can show a few slides on it, which is a tool for capturing either manufacturing or service processes in AR. And then obviously you can augment that experience by, you know, you could put in virtual feedback from the machine. So if you've got an IoT system, you could see, for example, I don't know, what RPM, what's the voltage, what's the flow rate, blah, 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 and see that kind of information, as well as put in other information. We also have the ability from our PLM tool, as you're doing your manufacturing process planning, to drive that out to this AR solution as well. So as you're designing and planning your product, you can actually start to automatically drive those AR process instructions based upon what manufacturing engineering is starting to put together. Here, let me show real quick the so the Euphoria Expert Capture. It's a tool for capturing, authoring, and then deploying manufacturing or process instructions. So and it's really 3 steps, right? Have someone capture it, augment the experience, so you can add in pictures, text, video, virtual feedback from the system, and then deploy it. So the way it works is in the first step, you capture the steps. So whether it's videos and photo, you can actually speak instructions, virtual steps, bookmarks, locations. So where are you in space? And you do that using in AR headset device, such as HoloLens or the EMT1. Then there's an editing environment for augmenting those steps, and then leveraging that set of steps using either the HMT1, HoloLens, desktop, laptop, or you can even send it out to a Word document, right, if you just want paper documentation from it. So in the first step, you might use your device to start capturing what the person is doing. And then again, it uses the location awareness, the spatial technology to understand where you are in space. You can speak commands to it to tell it as it's capturing, like stop step, next step, bookmark, insert instruction here. So different ways to tell it to capture information. Then you can enhance that experience with your defined steps. Put in, similar to maybe a video editing tool, but obviously spatially aware capabilities. And then publish that out, and then be able to leverage that on a whole range of devices. And it can include things that are, not just at a single step or single location, but maybe you're going from one machine to another, and it'll actually give you a little path of, path of where you're going to go next, what station you're going to go to, as you step through the instructions. So again, this is kind of the next step up in being able to create and author an augmented reality experience that takes a step beyond something like chalk.
What kind of training does PTC provide with this part of it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there's actually a complete set of there's a couple of different paths. You can do a virtual training. So there's virtually led training. There's face-to-face training, and of course you can go as far as having specific application consulting. So anything from self-led virtual to complete one-to-one hands-on, and anything in between. And this happens to be a SaaS offering, so no software to deploy or install. So, and I unfortunately did not drag I don't know why I didn't, for some reason I did not drag a video along with this one. Other questions?
What kind of, I'm curious as to what, and I'm sure this is kind of mentioned, but what type of companies are using this now?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's a pretty broad range. Lots of industrial companies. I mentioned Bowden, companies like Vestas Wind. Lots of our medical device companies, so companies like Ortho J&J or Fresenius. Are using technologies like this. We see a lot of use in national labs. We see use of places like NASA. Automotive companies are using all sorts of AR technologies, as well as some of their own plenty of their own homegrown as well, that go along with their pursuits of self-driving cars. So there's quite a bit of work in the automotive market, but yeah, we see pretty broad adoption, pretty broad adoption of this. Probably the heaviest interest is things like industrial, aerospace, medical device, where there's lots of opportunity to help the manufacturing and service ends in particular, but we've seen even more interest now with kind of with what's gone on with COVID in the last 6 months, as people are struggling to find ways to better collaborate and communicate.
I was going to say, actually, because for the manufacturing incubator here at Center of Gravity, we're looking to kind of expand our presence beyond the capital region. And I'm wondering, even for some of the product development work that we're into, You know, if these types of tools can be kind of commodified for that kind of use.
Yeah, that's that's very interesting. That's a very interesting question, because the way this it's all based upon this platform technology that we have, euphoria, and euphoria is actually even used more broadly in app development space, everything from games to augmented reality. So that's definitely something that would be interesting to follow up on.
So kind of to go along with that, so obviously for startups or small manufacturers that may be just getting started, this type of like enterprise software is usually well out of reach, or something for well later on. The chalk thing is actually the first like real like approachable, easy to use thing that I've seen so far.
Yep.
But do you have any thoughts on like people who are, so companies that are just starting out, but they're going to want to move to something like this in the future, but maybe steps to start out and kind of prepare, as they're figuring out what type of, enterprise software they're going to be looking at, maybe just like how to organize things or how to kind of set themselves up so that transition to something like this is doable, or is there a way to make it more approachable?
Yeah, no, that's, it's interesting. That's a great question. Even on the PLM side, I get that question a lot, because, just about everyone starts out with, oh, have to manage my CAD data. That's because if I don't do that, I'm sunk, right? So I have to do that. But then, well, how do I get from there to managing, a configurable, a variable platform, or driving, my manufacturing BOM, right? What are the right steps? And I don't know that there's any cookie cutter answer, but what I typically recommend are, a couple things. Have a vision in mind of where you want to go, but start slowly in the right chunks. As an example, something like this Vuforia capture technology is something, as a SaaS offering, that a smaller company can jump into, right? They don't have to have a lot of IT expertise or knowledge to start to leverage this, right? They don't even have to have a lot of PLM or even, specifically CAD data, right? Because they're creating it from what they're actually working on and working with. So that, starting with, maybe something like Chalk just for collaboration, something like the expert technology capture is a next level step, without having to have a larger set of enterprise systems in place, to more larger ERP, PLM, MES systems in place and formalized, right? It allows you to kind of get that next step to better capture and track your manufacturing steps and process, without having to have full PLM or MES going to start to track that.
Jeff, Michael here. So obviously I know PTC, your main CAD platform is Creo. How does this support with other platforms? Because obviously companies are pretty embedded sometimes with SolidWorks or Autodesk and what have you.
Yep. So for the technologies we're looking at today, they're completely CAD agnostic, right? Because you're just using whatever you're using for experience. Now, from Vuforia Chalk, you could augment that with an AR, with AR viewables. Now, those AR viewables can be created in a variety of fashions. Obviously from our Creo solution, we support direct publishing, but there's a whole range of converter solutions to take a third-party CAD and publish it to a Vuforia ready AR solution. So there's if you're doing it from PLM, we do it automatically for you. So regardless of what CAD platform you have, from our PLM platform, we're agnostic to that, and we just publish it to AR. But if you're just using CAD, there's some tools available to publish that to a Vuforia ready CAD. as well as from neutral formats like STEP or IGES.
Is Euphoria using AI? I saw it in the description for this talk that it's about augmented reality and AI. I don't, is that the case?
So in the solutions that we looked at today, it's not using AI, except, well, in that first example where I showed with Bowdoin, where it's doing the spatial awareness and the spatial recognition, we use machine learning to help learn the spatial recognition. So as you're looking at different products, we use the visual plus in a machine learning back end to help learn different shapes, so it correctly identifies them for the right spatial awareness.
Yeah, I just thought when I saw the description, I thought there might be something like generative design. I'm not like into that. It's just kind of, I'm curious about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. It's so as part of our Creo offering, we actually have a very comprehensive AI-backed generative design solution. And it's really, again, myself as an engineer, it's really slick, where you can give it a set of basic design outline, a set of parameters, and a set of constraints, even things like loads, and tell it to go create a generative design. But even beyond that, you can say, well, I want to optimize it for 3D printing, or I want to optimize it for casting, or and it works with the AI system to then go and optimize that generative design based upon those parameters.
Do you have products at PTC? I mean, like, do you have a product selection? Like, can we invite you back for AI and generative design?
Yeah, I could certainly, I could do that.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's, for me, working in PLM now, I always crack open my CAD tools just to keep my engineering brain still functioning on the old fun stuff.
Excellent.
But I imagine the stuff I could have done back when I was doing day-to-day design with some of the stuff that's available today. I can also share some links on it, just so if people want to see some of the information before we have a chance to set something up.
Sure. We have a new question in the chat from Troy Fisher. Is there a way to get a hands-on demo?
So Euphoria Chalk, there is from the App Store, you should be able to get a free trial period. And I can provide, again, I can send more information out after the call. I should have foreseen that question and had a slide on hand, but I apologize, I didn't.
With the headsets, I'm curious about the ability for hands-free devices versus your headset. Is there an ability to, or is there a thought that eventually you can just use your phone as your headset, or am I way out?
Well, so with Chalk, that's actually right where it starts today, right? So with Chalk, you're using your phone as your headset, and even with our our expert capture, you can use your phone. And so there's that capability actually exists today. What you kind of give up in that are things you can do with like hand gestures, like in with a headset, it'll put up a virtual display, and you can be a little bit of Tony Stark, where you can do hand gestures and actually get feedback, depending upon your controls, obviously, but you can get feedback based upon those hand gestures, which are not quite as elegant as using a phone for it.
Yeah, I could see a lot of training opportunities for that. Steve Scotton has just put in the chat, You've given great examples of one-on-one collaboration. Can you give a rough overview of how this might work in a multi-user environment, for example, for teaching and training for groups of people?
Yep. So that's and so one of the things I mentioned that's coming this year for Euphoria Chalk is multi-user sessions. So you could have multiple people. You could have multiple people log into your Chalk session. So you could be giving instructions maybe on, I don't know, on how to use a milling machine or how to set up how to set up a welder or and have multiple people follow along on that session rather than just a one-to-one. So it will support multiple user, and then eventually there's a goal of having kind of more like a set of groups environment where you can identify groups of users as a team of users as well to have in multi-user sessions. And Stephen, just out of curiosity, what would you imagine? What would you imagine for to be able to do in a teaching environment like that?
Well, one of the things that I do with at Center of Gravity, or used to be before the pandemic, are electronics classes, where we've got shared projects, or where what we've done in the past is sort of given out the materials, and everybody, all the attendants of the class, builds their own version of the project. And one of the problems with doing that as a remote event is that I can't see what other people are doing, and I need to be able to look and see,
Yes.
oh, well, you've got this capacitor backwards, and that's why it blew up. Things like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's a company that just used our technology to build a really neat solution where if you hold up a printed circuit board, it overlays the PCB layout design on it, so you can actually see and go through your PCB traces while looking at the physical board. So it's definitely a neat application.
Yeah, that would be really great. One of the things that we've offered is a build your own Arduino class, where it comes with a kit, and so we would be able to get our hands on the schematic for the board, and would not just a solderless breadboard,
right,
but
right.
Here's the actual board, and that would provide a lot more information. Yeah.
Oh, neat.
Thank you.
Could you hook us up with some freebies?
That's a good question. Let me ask. Let me go ask the sales team how that plays out, because I know they've got a program for the market. So let me find out. Let me just take a few notes so I don't forget.
That was a good point, Sam. Like I just think about what the Center of Gravity does, and obviously there's uses for this technology even with what we do, because we're trying to train people on equipment, and we're also trying to expose people to new technologies and things like that. And there's an aspect of I do with CEG, and what the Center of Gravity does is like, could we somehow get a hold of the technology and find ways to showcase it to our manufacturers and our other startups that might not be engaged with the center, things like that. So there's a lot of interesting ways this could go.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I will start to see if I can find. I'll find the right people to ask. That's a great question.
Jeff, I have a question. Does PTC do any demonstrations and whatnot with students in high school, so that they have a better understanding of how AR is used out in the real world? I work with a lot of students that think of video gaming as their next job in life, and reality is it's not going to be, but this is how it's used in real life, and what that job market looks like.
Yeah, absolutely we do. We actually have a group that's focused on outreach for K through 12, and so I can get you their information.
Yeah, that would be great because I'm here in Albany, but you know, we don't have a lot of companies that create this kind of technology here. So being able to share that even in a virtual setting would be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Cheryl, I'd love to connect with you soon.
Absolutely, Karen. It's funny because I was just micro stalking you on the other computer. So we're on the same page.
That's a new word for me. I don't know how that's I'm micro stalking. That's
I coined that myself for when I'm like trying to figure out, you know, whether I need to make a connection with a person or not is when I microstalk, because I don't want to ping you on your LinkedIn and have you wonder why, unless I actually need to connect with you. So pre-stalk. We'll connect offline, Karen. So
yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to say, if Karen, if you can get me your contact information, I can get that information out to you.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat.
Great.
Excellent.
Jeff, I just micro stalked you.
It's not micro when you tell him.
That's Mac. Is that macro? Is that macro stalking?
Yes, that's macro stalking. So let the world know. Jeff, we've been putting your links into the chat just for the apps for Chalk, for Euphoria Chalk.
All right,
I think
you.
they are correct.
Yep,
like
they look.
Google one, I put up the Apple Store one. But yeah, it would be wonderful to get you back here to talk about AI again. So
sure.
Would that be you or someone?
So you know, I could do it, but I'll probably tap one of my teammates who can get way more in depth.
Well, you can join you. We allow more than one. We allow group presentations and co-presenters and all types of things here at the Manufacturing Incubator. So does anybody have any other questions before we close up for the day? We like to one new message. Michael is leaving. We'll be in touch. Any other questions that anybody has? And Jeff, any other tidbits that you want to leave us with?
No, I guess I just want to thank everyone for their time, and you know, I think it was great questions and discussion, really exciting. And you know, for me, it's just always cool to see manufacturing growing in the Capital District. So for me, it was just a blast.